Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Thought Leaders Live, where we talk with thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. Today, we're joined by Matt Guse, uh, in, president of MRS Machining. Uh, Huge background in manufacturing and machining, a family business. And today we're going to talk about a lot of things manufacturing and machining. Uh, but the thing that is very interesting, we'll touch on first, is that Matt wrote a book about his family business called The MRS Machining Story. There it is. And we're going to talk about the book and the writing process that went into that and what impact it's had on his business. And then we'll just get into machining, manufacturing, and marketing all as well. So, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me on, Greg. I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite a while now. I'm always interested in meeting new people and hearing their stories along with sharing with mine. And at the end of the day, I hope someone learns something from our conversation and they'll be better at it tomorrow. So,
That's my goal as well, Matt. So, why don't we start out with you telling us a little bit about your personal journey and your background and how it led to you to MRS machining?
well, I guess my background goes from the roots of from just growing up on a farm at a young age. And it would turned into a more of a hobby farm, cash crop farm. So my dad always worked outside of work, and he would happen to be a machinist of all things. So I kind of grew up with the machining and the farm ethic, and then we actually ended up selling the full farm. And when I was in middle school, I moved to town, and my dad started working for a local company here. So I got to come in and see him, you know how kids are. And actually, I started looking for a job. I was working at a gas station, and I did. I was all right, but I they asked me if I would be interested in sweeping the floors. So okay, that's cool. I got to sweep the floors. I got to see really cool parts being made, and I got to meet some amazing people. And they wanted to help me. So I just started one day. A guy went on vacation, and they asked me if I would run a CNC horizontal machine center, and I on a second shift, and I had no idea what I was doing. All I had to do was pull these parts and push a button, and that's how I got into it. So we moved on, and that place ended up closing its doors because the owner got killed in a car accident, unfortunately. So and another cloud is that he liked to spend money. He didn't have it, so it was going to end up going bankruptcy. So bankrupt, and so I ended up closing the stores. And my dad was friends with some of the customers, and literally the owner said, "Hey, I want everything out of here that afternoon." And
Wow.
so my dad got a hold of the customers. He had a truck. We loaded some material and put it in his garage because it was Monel, which is a very expensive material at that time. It's like 60% nickel. So my dad continued to store it in his garage while he kind of figured out what he was going to do next in his life. And I'm a at that time I'm a senior in high school. I'm just going to be graduating in 2 months, and the owner actually set me up for tech college. And that's why sponsorships are kind of important to me. I can get into that later. So, anyways, the customers asked my dad if he could um, finish those parts, which are just little shafts with some grooves and chamfers on it. And he had this little self-hit bend lathe, and on my book cover, that's why that lathe's on there. How he did that today, I have no idea. So, anyways, he continued to do it, and all of a sudden one day he thought, well, maybe we should maybe make this a business. So, at that time, government work was kind of cool, and so he went in to start the company and got a lawyer and all that. And what are you going to call it? Well, I want to be known for women owned. So that's what MRS stands for. Is it's a missus. So we started out a woman owned. We're still a woman owned. My wife happens to be my boss here and boss at home. So I get double whammy. So I get scolded a lot, but no. So, anyways, we just started going with that. I actually ended up going to tech school. I actually moved up about an hour or 2 hours north of here in Hayward and got a job in a shop. And my dad continued to go. Well, my dad ended up having a health issue, had a massive heart attack, and he was only 42 at that time when he started. So then I ended up coming home trying to help him figure this out. What are we going to do? Well, anyways, he got cleared to come back home, go to work, and we hired a guy with experience to help run it for a while. So in the back of my mind, I knew my dad's health was going to have issues. And it, I, so when I met my wife in Hayward, we ended up getting married. And the day of my wedding, my dad says, "Hey, you come work for me full time now." And I was like, "No, I'm happy." And so 3 months later, here we are back in '89, and I started working for him. And We kept doing that in my garage for like 2 years, 3 years. And I just asked my dad one day where we're going with MRS. He says, I'm happy. I want to stay small. My mom always wanted to get out of the house. And I said, well, I'm young and dumb. I'm going to see if I can grow it. And my dad was always shake the stick. And if there's stories of him, how he did what he did back then, he'd probably be in trouble. But he just told me to be quiet and get back to work. Well, I ended up growing it. I got lucky one day because I was only 21 at that time. And who wants to give a precision part to some 20-year-old kid? So then my dad also found a customer. So we went from nothing to something. And now we had to move out of the house. We had to buy some equipment. And me and my dad looked at each other. If the checkbook was black, we thought we were doing something right. We had no business. We didn't know what balance income sheets were. We didn't know what strategic plan it was. We didn't none of that. So finally, someday, well, in the story, you'll hear all this in my book. So when we moved down to a little building and we started hiring people, and then we ended up getting a government contract, and the government inspector came in and said, "Hey, we need a bigger building. You can't. We're not going to give this continue doing business with you if you get this." It was a cluttered mess. What's 5S? It just you could find a spot in the shelf or table, you're stuck it there. We ended up finding another building, um, and we had to fix that up in a hurry. So we were kind of running two locations, which was very stressful. One location was much better after we finally got that building up and moved everything in. So then we kind of hired more people. And of course, remember 2000 hit, we found the building that we're currently in was where I started, and we moved in there. And then, of course, all our computers were going to crash and everything was going to be done over the internet. Well, I knew that wasn't true because everybody likes face to face. I always tell people there's three things about a conversation. One is kind of like writing an email and text. You can tell anybody what you want to tell them, or not. Can't tell them face to face. That's 5% of a conversation. Another 20% of the conversation is picking up the phone and calling somebody. But you still don't get the true energy or synergy that when you do that. So the handshake to me is 75% of a conversation. That's where the true, and that's where the rubber meets the road, I feel. And what we're doing today is Zoom calls. You can kind of get some of that, but still be in person live. There's nothing to it. And that's what we flock. That's what we focus on you know, our company here, our sales team. I get out, I meet people.
Yeah.
I don't, not if you do business. So that's very important. So I knew that wasn't going to be the thing. And of course, I can talk a lot here too. So, and then 9/11 hit, and then we had a slow period. We got through that. Then I knew I had to do something. So I joined a peer group, and that's probably the blessing. I did that for like 3 or 4 years. And one of the things in our peer group, we had to come up with a strategic plan. And I said, well, I want to come up with a plan how to get through a recession. Everybody thought I laughed at me. So I wrote a plan and come up with some ideas, and we worked through that. And I just always kept it in my filing cabinet. Well, long and behold, what happens in 07, 08? We go in the recession. So I pulled out my little plan here and we kind of followed it and got us through. The
Nice.
only scary part about that whole deal was we had like 95% of our business with one customer. It was either that or nothing. So yeah, it was real scary. But there was nothing else out there, and we never laid nobody off. We kept everybody here employed, which was real nervous when you're. It was almost paycheck to paycheck to make payroll, which was very. That's why I have no hair in my head. So, well, then we started, then we got in the oil and gas business, and that boom hit in 09, 010, 11, 12, and then my dad's health started really, he was diagnosed with a lung disease, and he was given 2 years to live. So in 13, it was funny because then my grandma passed away, and then my mom got diagnosed with cancer, and then now we're thinking my mom's going to pass away before my dad passes away.
Oh boy.
So a very, very, very tough time. I keep going on this. I'll probably start choking up a little bit, but I'll go fast and I'll get on to the next of the success stories.
Yeah.
So
Take your time.
yeah, so we got, my dad passed away. I, you can plan for that, but when it hits, and there's no planning there. It just, so I was just a zombie for like 3 months. I couldn't even step foot in this door because first thing I thought was my dad. My dad was literally my best friend. So, no, was it easy? No. Did we fight? Yep. But we always made a rule. Every night we're going to fight at work. We're going to go home. We're going to say we're sorry. So we always had that belief. And then my mom had to get involved and choose her son, her husband. So there was plenty of those kinds of stories. But eventually I came back, and I was just amazed how my team here just picked up the pieces, and it was just like I had been here, and they did a wonderful job. And I always thought, me and my dad talked about an e-stop business back then, and that just always came to dead end roads. And so, but what I learned from an e-stop is I always wanted to give back to the people. So then, I ended up getting, as soon as my mom passed away, she wanted out. So then I bought my mom out. My mom passes away. Then I had a guy that called me a month later and said, "Hey, you can come help run our MRS. He can help me and do all this wonderful stuff." Well, he ended up being a snake, and his goal was to put us out of business so he could buy us like for 10 cents on the dollar in the parking lot. So that's all in my book. I'll share it. I'll let you guys read the book.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just say we got through that, and then I meant best thing I've ever did is I hired a part-time CFO who's still here today, and he showed me how to do the numbers. I can work with customers, I can make parts, I can deal with the shop. That's like, I know that real well. But dealing with banks and financials was never my strong point, and it still isn't today. Just like electrician, I'm not an electrician. I can flip the switch on if it's on and it's working. That's my electrician. But so I met him and I told him the first thing I wanted him to do was I wanted to give back to his people. I wanted to put a profit sharing program in place and I want to give 40% back. And he's like, "Well, that's going to be tough, but
Yeah.
hey." So I in 2018 we had a really good year. God's blessed us. I always say God put me through that for a reason, and I'm glad He did because it I was getting kind of arrogant. I guess I could say I thought I was really, He just made me step back. So we put it in. We gave 40% of the profit back to people. What I was shocked that our output went up 20%
Wow.
and our profit went up because now that if they're making a part and they're making a mistake, it's going to affect their pocketbook as much as mine.
Nice.
So we got through that in 2020. COVID hit. Well, I wasn't scared because I had a 4 month backlog when it hit, and plus my back pocket I had that recession plan. And I'll have to say the first month was fine. The second month it was getting scary, and I did pull it out. I looked at it, but as soon as I got done looking at it that day, I'm getting a bunch of orders, and I never looked at it again. So we got through COVID, and we're deemed as essential, so that helped. And so today we're doing well. Like I told you earlier, our three biggest customers for the last 2 years have been dead, and we have a record year. So I'm very blessed for our customers. I'm very blessed for our team. Um, I mean, I thank everybody. And then through that, I mean, if you want to get in, join some questions, I feel like I'm doing all the talking here, but
Hey,
um,
we're here to hear your story, Matt, but
okay.
let's thank you for, sharing all that lot and the personal details. Sorry about, your mom and your dad, and to lose them both in such a short window is, I lost my mom last year. I understand what you were going through, but to lose them both in that short window is very difficult. And your grandmother, like you were saying. Um, but let's talk a little bit now about the book and what compelled you to decide to write the story, which now I'm just hearing some of the highlights I'm eager to read. As I told you, it's on my 2026 list.
Okay, yeah. Well, there's a few things that inspired me to write it. I guess the first one is that we're going to be celebrating our 40th year anniversary this summer. So I said, hey, I want to document some of this, and so that wasn't one reason. And then older I get, my son's into history, whatever that ancestry, whatever they call that,
Sure.
and he pulled up all these pictures, and I'm like, wow, So hey, I want to leave some kind of legend, that my family, my great grandkids, my great grandkids will have that all documented. Hey, here's what Grandpa Goosey went through, or great Grandpa Goosey went through, and here's the story of MRS. So that's the main reason I wrote it. The only problem is I'm not very good with penmanship, so I knew that was going to be a struggle. I started, it took me about a year and a half to actually write the book. So, I, as you know, we know that my great guy, the moose guy or the orange guy, Steve Miller, great
Steve.
guy. So, about the book, I talk about mentors and I talk about asking people for help. And I'll share some stories, one I did and one I didn't, why I did. And while Steve's one of the guys that I asked, hey, Steve, you wrote like, I don't know how many books he's wrote, and his lovely wife wrote books. How do I go write a book? So he helped me and he led me through it, told me how to do it, and still was a little foggy, but it really came down to putting the pen to paper. And we came up with some chapters, and he introduced me to a nice editor and then a layout person, and did a fabulous job. And we just all worked together as a team. It took us probably after I wrote the whole book. What I did is I went on a sabbatical for 10 days. Went up to my father-in-law's and just hung out. It was winter, the weather was crappy, so and I got done with basketball season. I just took 10 days and I got about 75% of the book written.
Wow.
And then it happened to be my wife and daughter took a vacation, so I had another 4 days back in early April, and the weather was crappy because I like to go cycling, as you'll learn more about that in the book. And so I finished it out, and found my editor, and I submitted it to them, and they went through it, and edited it, and of course it takes a lot of time.
It
That's
does.
the number one thing. How in the world did I find the time to write a book? I mean, it's hundreds of hours of doing that. So um, and there's the product. So, I probably, yeah, there you go. And I probably get an email for a while there when it first came out and everybody started buying it. I got 2 or 3 emails a day thanking them. And now I probably get 1 or 2 a week. People that read it, find it online at Amazon, that how it's touched their lives and thank me for it. I'm still waiting for that negative one. If that's fine, everybody can, we can all agree to disagree, but some people may touch them wrong or maybe, whatever, but I haven't got a negative one yet. And it's also inspired me to write. I've been writing a devotional letter every week, every Sunday morning. I send it out. The list is growing. I'm amazed at how many of my customers are on that list now and how many of my friends are on it. And through that letter and my book all kind of tie in together. And it's if I don't send that, my computer went down, broke one Sunday, so I couldn't get it. I had to come down to work to get it on a Monday, and I got like about 12 messages like, "Where's your letter this week? Where's your letter this week?" I'm like, "Oh, my computer's down." So that's the main reason I wrote it. And I just want people. The main reason though, I have so many. For every success story I have probably 5 to 7 unsuccessful stories, and I want people to learn from my mistakes so they don't do the exact same thing I did. That's the goal. And I think a few people that reached out to me have thanked me for that because they were heading down that same path. So
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the amount of effort that you put forth to produce this. The legacy you're going to leave for your family is fantastic. I commend you on that. And I think that's got to be immensely gratifying to get those responses from people. I'm assuming some people you've never met before, maybe even if it's getting that kind of reach. That's got to be incredibly gratifying. But tell me what it's done for you. I mean, I think you talked a lot about your, personally how it's been gratifying for you, but has it done anything for you on the business front? Helped you all at all in terms of your company culture and the people at MRS Machining, and then potentially even recruiting new people? I'd be curious on that front.
yeah, well, that's one I can speak a long time on. But the big thing that sold, writing a book isn't cheap. So the biggest thing that sold me on it, I think it was editor Steve. I can't remember what one. I think maybe both of them told me, don't think of it as a company brochure. What do you spend on company brochures a year? I'm like, well, getting all that stuff. I'm like, wow, that's thousands of dollars. Well, there's your company brochure right there. So that's what sold me on that. And it just and then also when you meet new customers and meet new people, you tell them you write a book. It's kind of like that. Wow, you wrote a book. It's kind of impressive. And not to me, but I mean, it's like, hey, this company's serious. They wrote a book about their story. That's something
Yeah,
I want to do business with. So thinking of it as a marketing campaign. But as recruitment, when I hire people or people come in here and you like them and stuff, think, well, here's a book, before you consider working here, here's what our culture's like, and here is it documented. So it's kind of like a human resource tool too. So,
yeah,
and then when I go to schools, now there's the recruitment thing. We could talk about this a long time. So I've been working with schools probably for the last 25 years. And the reason I did, I could tell you back in when I was in when I was going through tech school, I could kind of, they told us the average age of machinist was 45, 50. And when 2000 rolled around, I was like, you know what? Our tech college locally had like 100 people in the class. Well, now today we're down to like 15. So I knew I had to do something about that. So I just started knocking on doors and trying to meet people and going to our local school. I actually got on the school board for 6 years. I enjoy it. It's kind of my passion now. And I guess, people come up with excuses. Well, Why do you go to career fairs in high schools? I don't have time for that. Our government should be doing that. Well, I'm a business person, and I'll give you some business tips. So if here we chart a lot of things. We watch our numbers, but if I hire one person, that's $300,000 of revenue at the end of the year. Um, if you want to spend 2 3 hours, or maybe let's just say a half day, 5 hours a day at a school, one day, and you get one recruit, you get $300,000 in your bottom line, and your profits at, let's say, 10%. You can do the math.
Right.
I don't think I'll get a return on my investment better than that in the stock market or anywhere else. So that's how you look at it, and you just become friends. And people want to know who you are. And when I go to the school, the superintendent, the principal should know you by first name, and you should know them by first name. And how do you do it? Well, you go to their building and you tell them how important you are, and you invite them to your building. And something about the secret sauce in there is we give them a tour, and we bite the bus, we pay for the bus or whatever it is to get the kids here. And the secret sauce is two things. I tell them food and a t-shirt. Food is, you got to find good food because everybody remembers good food. I still have kids that come through 15 years ago. I see down the road on the street. It's like, hey, those hot beefs we had that day. That's all they talk about, and they can remember, hey, MRS. So that's what we
What
do.
what did you feed him?
Hot beefs. We had hot beefs that day, and that
Okay.
day that was must have been really good, or the stars and moons were lined up, and the whole class loved it and thanked me for it. Um, that, and then we give them a T-shirt because now who wants to be the cool kid in school and wear our MRS T-shirt? For $3 or $4 a T-shirt, yeah, that's a lot of money. But there again, if I get one or two students and they all wear the shirt, and then when the teacher or the bus driver comes along, we give them a shirt. So now they go home and tell their family, and all like, hey, this place is a good place to work. So you just got to keep that ball rolling. Um, don't look back. Just keep coming up with new ideas. I Another thing I did is I got now I'm on the tech board, and just you got to get your name out there. There's so many things I could talk about. Oh, then we have Cardinal Manufacturing. That's kind of how it all started with Craig. We have a machine shop in the high school. They're my competitor. Dang right, they're my competitor. What if I'm threatened by a bunch of high school kids that work 2 hours a day? I got other problems to talk about. Um, but what they do is they learn manufacturing. But the main thing we teach them there is soft skills. When they come into our building,
Wow.
they got all that soft skill. They know how to play nice together. They'll shake your hand. And I tell anybody that comes, if they apply for a job and they're from a Levi Strom, the next words out of your mouth should be, when can you start? Because you'll be very impressed. And everybody's like, yeah, you're absolutely right, Matt. And now we got them started in other schools. There's another great one. It started the same time at Cardinal up here in Webster, Wisconsin, called Tiger Manufacturing. And then there's another one in Superior, Wisconsin, now called Spartan Manufacturing. They're newer. They're 3 or 4 years in there, but so we have workshops. So you can come to the workshop and learn how to run a student-run business in your own school, or how to start one, how to interact with kids. We have teachers, we have industrial people come in there, and you all got to be supportive. And I write a lot of articles on LinkedIn, and you're more than happy to go out there and read them. I just write them what's on my mind and what I see success, and a lot of people thank me for that. So just follow me on LinkedIn, and you can go back and see them all. But the number one thing right now, the big buzzword is starting new schools. Everybody gets a brand new building, they get shiny equipment. They'll build these schools like 12 different programs. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. You need about two or three at the max.
Mm,
And then I always tell people, aiming in business. I bring on a new customer. I know we can think big. We're going to start small and move fast. But because I didn't marry my wife overnight, you get into a relationship, you got to feel each other out, how you do things, how you invoice, how you make the parts, how you check your parts. It's a slow process. I don't want $1 million of business overnight from one customer because that's scary for me and that's scary for them.
yeah.
So it's no different in starting a program. Hey, we're going to build a program. First of all, you got to get a good teacher, hands down. If you don't have a good teacher, your program's going to be successful. And then you got to pay the teacher, because if you don't pay them enough, then I'm just like, I'll bring them over here. So when Craig started over at Cardinal, I had happened to be on the school board, and I asked him what they were paying him. Well, like every school, they got this chart, and if you've been here so many years and you got a master's, and they kind of gave it to me, and I took it and I crumbled it and threw it in the garbage. I'm like, why did you do that for? I said, if you're going to pay him that, I'm going to hire him over here, and he's going to come work for me for double his money. So you better wake up. And they're like, well, we can't do that. I go, you're just coming up excuses. Yeah, there is. There's this called a stipend. So if a FFA teacher works for the summer, they give her extra money and her or him extra money to work there. That's common, right? So you got to do the same thing to Greg. Well, long and behold, they finally clicked. Well, okay, I'm a business person again. Now they got kids open and rolling in the school because the program's so great because it teaches
Wow.
kids, you're getting 30 kids, 20, 30 kids in your school and the state
Yeah.
pays you 9 grand. Well, that's it's pretty simple. You don't have to make life difficult.
Well, Matt, I mean, that's amazing that, you know, that you went into the high school. I mean, talk about playing the long game. Do you have any kind of intermediate steps or intermediate things you do to recruit new workers in, the present day? You can't wait for them to graduate. I mean, now you've got this ball rolling. So I think all the work you've done is probably starting to come to fruition and has been for years. You have a nice machine going there. Is there anything else you do to your recruiting beyond that?
Yeah, well, I got lucky again, I guess. I mean, so we were hiring for an office lady, and she came in there. She was a wonderful gal, and she's young. And I was at a career fair one day about 2 years ago, and this guy come up to me, and he goes like, "What are you doing here?" So I'm talking to the kids, trying to get them to come to work at MRS, get them into manufacturing. Well, I don't want to talk to an old guy. I went home that night and I'm like, you know what? He's got a point there. So, anyways, long story short, she came in, she applied for an office position, and we looked at her resume, and she's got an MBA in marketing. Well, you know anything about marketing? Oh yeah. And I go, well, can you help us recruit people? And this is where marketing really clicked for me. I mean, we don't have any marketing; it's all word of mouth. But I
Mhm.
said, hey, can you find me some machinists? Oh yeah, I can do that. I don't know what her secret sauce is, but she's on some social media. She's on the Facebook. She's on all that stuff. And we ran another ad for another person in the office. And normally, if we get an applicant or two, we're like, wow, yeah. Well, long and behold, she got 120 applicants in 24 or 48 hours.
Whoa.
Whoa, yeah, okay. Now we got another problem. Now we're going to go through all these applicants. So, and now I said, if you can do that as for a machinist, we'll be tickled pink. Well, since September, I think she's got a sixth machinist in here.
Wow.
And I don't, yeah. So marketing, hiring a marketing person or doing whatever, it pays for itself. An expert like a machinist, a good machinist will make you money, just like a marketing. You got to find someone in marketing now. So now she wants to turn our website and then our services on out there. And I'm like, no, 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 we're good right now. We'll take one or two companies, but we're afraid that we would get bombarded, and wouldn't be able to help our customers that got us to where we're at.
Sure.
So, but
So I mean, you don't have to share the secret of what she did, but what do if you want, what did she do? Do you remember
yeah,
kind of,
she's consistent. When people reply, she can get views and she can get charts. I don't. She goes on that. I'm a little bit computer all that literate, but I'm still have a hard time with my cell phone. But she goes on and looks at analysis, and she can kind of figure out where people are and where they're coming from, where they're hitting or clicking, and then she can kind of search things where people looked at it or replied back, and it's a marketing thing. I haven't really looked into
okay,
it. I'm just wonderful. She has it now. She goes to our career fairs. She helps me. She helps organize all that. She does
okay,
that all for me. So it's like it's and then everybody. First everybody in the shop's like, why do we not have a person in the office? Well, now they're all on board because we hired six machinists, which makes their job easier. Just like
sure,
robots. We bought a robot in here, and the best thing that I got lucky there again. We bought it used. I bought it used one. And the best thing that it sat there for 3 months because everybody was feared that they was going to take their job away.
right,
So we got it up and going now, and everybody loves it because it doesn't take their job away. It makes their life easier because it loads the parts and checks the parts, and then it makes them and they can do other things, and they don't go home exhausted or really physically hard, tired because the robot did all the lifting, and they're just kind of there monitoring it and doing other things that aren't such physical demanding. So,
right,
which led
right.
to now like we need more robots.
That's the beauty of automation. So we
Yep.
got about a minute here, Matt. So maybe you can just tie it up with just the value of mentorship and why you say why honest mentorship is essential to growth and staying grounded.
Yeah, I have a mentor. Everybody should have a mentor. The key to a mentor is don't find one that's going to tell you everything you want to hear. Find one that's going to tell you what you don't want to hear. Because you learn so much by it, and it sets you, it keeps you back focused. You know, you can go drift over here, and then all of a sudden they'll tell you something to keep you focused. But find somebody, and just and then become a mentor. You know, just a two-way street. You got to help someone, and they got to help you. You know, I'm a mentor to quite a several people, and then we usually touch base once a month, or whenever they need something help. Hey, Matt, I'll run an idea by you. If I can tell them they're crazy, or if hey, that's a great idea. But find a mentor, find somebody, and don't be afraid to ask for help out there. Because like me, if you're listening, and you want help, get a hold of me. I'll help you. You know, I have addiction, and it's Greg, and it's probably not a very good addiction, but it ain't drugs, or alcohol. But I'm addicted to seeing people be successful, and
Yeah,
whatever I can do to help them be successful, that's who I want to be, because I want to be proud of them. There's too much negativity in this world and jealousy, and we don't need none of that. So
I
that's
applause, applause from this guy. That's very admirable, Matt. And you asked for help, you got this. Kudos to you. You asked for help with your recruiting, and every time it seems like you've turned around for help, it has only made you better. So kudos for you and all the efforts you've done with MRS Machining, and thank you so much for being on the show. If somebody wants to get a hold of you or MRS Machining, how do they do it?
You can Google me. You know, you'll find me on several other podcasts. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You can see the name here, and yeah, just reach out. You can pick up the phone and talk to me. 715-286-2448. I know it sounds elementary, but um,
And of course, we've got a wise guy out in the audience. How can I reach you to help me? I don't know if this guy can be helped, Matt. He might be beyond help.
well, his problem is he's not a Packer fan. He needs to become a Packer fan. I'll be more than happy to help him.
Love it. All right. Well, Matt, thank you again for joining us. And thanks everyone for watching another episode of Thought Leaders Live.